Welcome to the Extra Time Podcast, where you'll hear sports stories you might not have heard about from people you might not have heard of. Let's get into this week's show.
G'day, Extra Timers, and welcome in for another episode of the Extra Time Podcast. It's not quite as happy a scene as it was last week. I'm not playing the Hawks song. I was going to for about 121 minutes of that game, and then in the last 10 seconds, it was taken from us. So, no big Hawks pride or, don't have the jumper on either. Don't have the song going. I'm still quite proud of the effort, but not quite as happy. Luckily, my boy Max Verstappen got the win later that night on Sunday. So I'll be talking about that. I will talk a bit of Hawks. And as always, alongside myself, Aidan Box, is Mark Woods. G'day, Woods.
G'day. How are we?
Been all right, and I'm keen to get the talk going. Obviously, usually start with footy, but very first, you will notice again, I've changed hats again, back to the country road. I don't have the other hat I had on last week, the Clothing the Gap Indigenous flag hat. It was getting a bit smelly, Woods. If you watched the pod last week, you'd know that I spent 75 days working out in that hat, and obviously I worked pretty hard. So a lot of sweat, perspiration was on it. So she's in the wash at the moment. Got the country road back on, but I've actually got something else I wanted to pull out because I think it's the best headwear you could wear on the market right now. We're a couple of weeks out from Big Freeze 10, and Woods, you'll see, has got one as well, and I think you should all grab one of these. You can grab them from Coles, Bunnings, online. Get it on your noggin. Not only will your noggin be warm, but you'll be supporting probably the best cause in Oz right now. Led by the one and only Neil Danaher. And if you know footy or you know Australia, you'll know about it. It's obviously for motor neuron disease, fighting the beast, and it's 10 years strong now, which is remarkable. Double digits on the hat. You can get it from all those places I mentioned. They're only $25, so make sure you grab one of those. And I just want to finish this first segment with a massive thank you to everybody for their support on the video, both on my personal socials, on the Extra Time socials, for last week. Obviously, we were pretty real on the podcast last week, both personally myself and then around the world of sport. It was about that time we really got real and talked about those things in life, and the support was phenomenal. Even just any little comment, any like, I'm so grateful for it all, and just being able to inspire even a couple of you. So very grateful for that. Thank you. But without further ado, we're about to get into some footy. And round 10 was run and won on the weekend, Woods, and it started with a true shootout on Thursday night footy. My birthday was, I sat back, I'd finished the challenge, and I thought, I'm keen to watch a belter of a game. And in some ways it was, but in other ways it was monumental. It was an absolute flogging, but both teams scored over 100. The Cats lost it by 10 goals, which is remarkable. But my thoughts overall, a very interesting round, a very remarkable in its own way, unique. Shootout central, defence might be dead, and it was fast and tough. I'm a little bit worried about how fast the game's being played because the injury toll is larger than it's ever been, really. So a little bit worrying there. But to go through the games, I mentioned that one on Thursday night. The Swans took the heavyweight title from the Blues. We'll talk about that a little bit more later, to the tune of 52 points, if you don't mind, Woods. Collingwood and Adelaide, well, I honestly think they might as well play, a lot more, and they need to play in prime time because it's probably the best matchup over the last few years. It's definitely the most underrated, in my opinion. And go back and look at all the results. They're always close. The Dogs got it done over their rivals, the Giants. They won very dirty. It was a stinky affair. It was belting rain, harrowing wind. The kicking was atrocious. We'll get into that later. But they got the job done, a much-needed win for Bevo there. And then the Lions' juggernaut has awoken. There's not too much for me to talk about that. I don't want to dance over teams' graves too much. And the Tigers are in a very bad spot. The Lions got that done by over 100. The North Melbourne Footy Club continue to fight on. I was very impressed with their fight. Congratulations to Will Dawson, a Gippy boy making his debut. Had the Peter Wright assignment, which is not easiest in your first game. Did pretty well, but the Bombers got that done, and they're in second. You can call them seconding if you want. I saw that over Sportsbet socials. I didn't mind it. And the Eagles, behind their young wonder kid, defeated Nam.
Strange that one, especially considering who was it that said they wouldn't draft him? I remember late last year, it could have been Sam McClure.
Yeah.
Whoever it was, Sam Edmonds, whoever it is. He said, Mitch, they're not going to draft him.
Well, there was a little bit of the Jason Horne-Francis factor
Yeah.
where he'll just want to go home. He'll hate it there. But he absolutely
I
loves Perth.
honestly think, like, you look at the photo, he's enjoying himself, but it's also, like, the Eagles for the past few years have been injured. I think that's been the biggest factor to their lack of success. And, okay, they've got a new kid in who can play, coupled with the older players coming back from injuries and finding their form again. And it's like, hold on a second. These are the Eagles that might just worry you in a year or two, especially if Harley Reid stays. Like, just imagine the number 9 running around just terrorising.
It's unbelievable. And like I said a few weeks ago, they're like the Golden State Warriors a few years ago, where Steph Clay and Draymond weren't playing, and then all of a sudden they come back and they've got draft capital and young stars like this. It is really worrying. They're the biggest club in the comp by members, and they've got a whole state. Like, they share it with Freo, but they get a lot more people to their games. And the way this kid was rocking that stadium, they are all in love with him, and he's only played about 5 games.
I think they're going to be selling out a few more home games, and rightfully so. I mean, is playing the double fend-offs and...
Fended off Christian Petrarca and Clayton Oliver.
Not a bad duo. I was about to say, if you don't mind as well. As like,
no, outran Petrarca out of the middle for 3 bounces and a goal from 48.
I think you've got to say that's almost goal of the year.
Make sure you go and watch it.
I will call that now. That, I mean, 90% sure. Like, there's going to have to be a extremely, like, I can't even say like Buddy like, because that was Buddy like.
Yeah.
That, like, the thing is, I'm trying to think of, like, I can remember running down the wing, getting chased. It's like, hold on, he basically just rove the ball out of the centre and just kicked a goal. And it's like, thank you very much. I'll collect my prize at the end of the year.
It's that, LeBron James, Victor Wembanyama factor where the hype really is real, and it's going to annoy a lot of people because they're going to post about him every week. But it's rightfully so. And you're right, like, for context of how great this goal was, Ben Brown kicked one with his feet on the boundary line off half a step, and it floated through, like, at the toughest angle for a right footer you could get. And it has not got no one. The only reason I know about it is because I watched the whole game, but no one else would know about it because he took it out of the middle, so it's not a broken play where he's ran from half back into heaps of space. He's taken it out of the middle through the centre stoppage, being chased by a Norm Smith medalist and one of the best midfielders in the game over the last few years, took 3 bounces and finished running sort of diagonal away from goal from 48. It's his first year of football. He's played, like I said, like 7 or 8 games of footy. I absolutely love watching him, and I would hate to be a North Melbourne fan because it hurts every time. But that's the way sport goes sometimes. Maybe they shouldn't have got that win at the end of last year. It happens though. But I love how he kicked this goal. He went straight to the crowd because that's what you do. When you've got a fortress filled with 60,000 of your fans, you light them up like this. And not only was he doing this, there's another photo of him grabbing the jumper, showing he loves the club.
Yeah.
Right behind him in this photo is his whole team. Every single teammate went over to him. And that's how special the goal it was.
That shows how, like...
And how special he is.
There's something different than this. Like, all the media surrounding it before he got drafted was, he's going to be a year or two and then he'll go home. But it's like...
going to be a diva, yeah.
Like, it's... You look at the Horne-Francis, you look at this, and we got a different producer. We'll just give him a quick shout-out. Bodie, he's a North Melbourne supporter.
Yeah, sorry to bring this up, Bodes.
It's totally there's this totally different vibe already than Horne-Francis. Like, this kid has shown so much. Like, if you aren't penciling him, like, in starting graving Harley Reid into the rising star now, because it's almost a given that he's going to win it. He just has to play a few more games. Like, it's him then daylight, in my opinion.
Yeah, and he's lifted this sleeping giant, like we were saying before, and the older guys are so inspired to play with him. Tim Kelly's having a tremendous season when he's been pretty flat the last few years. Elliot Yeo the same. He's been getting offers from other clubs already, Elliot Yeo. And it's because he's been living with this club and they're like with this kid, and he's watching this kid on the other side of his midfield and going, "Oh wow, okay, yeah, we're back. I'm excited to play with him." And sure, he might get some. Like, I'm almost certain down the track he'll get $1 million offers from St Kilda.
I was going to say St Kilda, like, we're offering
But I think he'll
Jacob
stay.
Wiedering. I'm like, I'd be throwing $8 million at him.
Because, and
I'm-
Victorian clubs
Sorry,
that need midfielders
Sorry,
will
10-year
throw the
deal,
kitchen
whatever.
sink.
It's like, as you said, throw the kitchen sink. I'm like, we've got a war chest.
And maybe
like,
there's
a
a little
kid like
bit of...
him in the midfield would absolutely bring people to the games. Like, okay, I'm under no illusion we won't. Like, I don't think we will. Or I think he'll re-sign for at least the first contract.
Yeah,
and
I
wait
agree.
till free agency because then he can offer a lot more.
Could be a little bit like in Melbourne. His fame would be 10 million times.
I think that's
in
the factor
WA, I
of
think
staying
I
away.
saw a photo of the back of the Western Australian, which and I hate that we haven't talked about these other photos yet, but I love the way that they're going about it because Perth and WA it's a different part of the world, and they don't try and be like us, and I love that. And on the back of the West Australian was this,
there you go.
It's Boss Baby, and that's what he is. He's the boss of the young players, and I thought it was a great spin-off. And this was before the game, saying, this clash is the ultimate chance for him to prove he's the best, and he didn't prove it. He put it in cement and said this is an absolute assurity, and beat a top 4 team that was Nam going into the round, and just phenomenal. And maybe something else that'll bring him to Melbourne, his partner, Yasmin Dersma, that's right, brother of Xavier and Zane, who he is dating at the time, right now, I'm pretty certain, was at the game on the weekend, so making sure he was impressing the Dale. She does play for Cullens, she is Victorian as well, so maybe, if that stays around, you never know. But for now, he's a West Coast Eagle, he's probably their best player outside of Watermania, who kicked 5 again, and leads the Coleman.
I'm a bit worried you know
and
that.
they're alive. Like, they are so alive, this West Coast side. Yes, maybe not finals. They are, the bottom of their team it drops off a little bit in terms of experience for sure. But yeah, the way that Harley's ignited this young old midfield, and the older players in this team, McGovern as well, another one having a tremendous season. I love seeing it. And a few other photos we had there for photo of the round. Obviously, that big clash between Frederick and Webster. Jimmy, he just plays the game on the edge. And you got to have players like that because they make the game exciting. And I'm sure Ross loves him because defensively, he's so stout. And I just thought we'd pick that one because it's a tremendous photo. They're both mid-air, and it's a 360 game, and that just shows, like, if international people saw that photo, they're like, oh, wow, did the one player get sent off? Like, no, that's footy. And then this one from Up was a pretty special touch as well after their win. So they're the photos of the week. But obviously, Woods, the photo on the far right here, means that your boys just couldn't get it done once again.
Once again, it's frustrating, and I had the opportunity to go if I wanted to, and I've got the opportunity to go again this week, but I went to local footy instead Saturday, took photos, and by the time game was over, I was in the club room. It was ladies' day, so music was pumping. I'm thinking, I'm buggered, but I don't know what. Like, there's nothing to really. It sucks being a supporter and going. There's nothing that really is driving me to actually watch the AFL team at the moment.
Everybody's questioning the Saints at the moment because
I'm there going. I'm questioning them.
Yeah.
Like, I'm there going. I don't mind us if we're shit if we lose, but show up.
And for
Our
me,
disposal efficiency is frustrating because of, I think I've said it week in, week out, that we're one of the fittest. We're apparently one of the fittest teams in the preseason, but that means nothing if you can't dispose of the ball correctly. If you don't have the skills, and you saw it in the Hawthorn game where we'd get it out of halfback, but we wouldn't be able to deliver it into the forward line. We'd get turnover time and time again, and there was a lot of
where are they actually going right now?
Like,
where's the ball going?
Go back to the Harley Reid thing. I'm like, how if we offered him the kitchen sink and he came, it's like that's one piece of the puzzle. But I think there's a few more missing at the moment. Like last year, after last year, I'm there going, okay, we're still 3 years away. But there's only a few pieces we need to fill. Now I'm going, the cracks are showing up everywhere. I need to actually see something more.
Yeah. And I was watching a bit of 360 and a few other shows on Fox last night. And they were talking about the Saints, and they were just saying, like, everybody's a little bit annoyed at the Saints at the moment. Their supporters, but neutrals and everybody else included, because everyone's just so confused where they've gone. And they touched back on that Collingwood win where they won by 3 goals, and they were moving the ball at electric pace. They looked like the way they wanted to play, it was to just move the ball quick and go with dare. And for the last 3 weeks, they haven't done that once. So a little bit of a question mark over them. And you're right, there is the thing which is the most displeasing for yourself, clearly, but for everyone else as well. It's just no one really wants to watch them, and they're not pulling anyone in. And that's going to keep happening if they keep going away from the game plan that worked with them at the start of the season. So,
and I instantly thought, okay, is it our injuries? I've just gone to the AFL website right now and gone injury list. We've only got 2 players on them. Sean Maker and Van Ness. People haven't even debuted yet. So we got people in the VFL, obviously, that are playing. I know Crouch had a good game, and a few others. I know Allison lit it up as well. I mean, we beat Richmond's VFL by about 110 points. So it's... We beat, I don't know how many AFL players they had, Richmond, and looking at their...
Probably not many. I was
going to say, looking at their injury list.
I think they're down to 25 listed players available.
5, 10...
They've got 15.
15, 18 players.
Yeah.
Like Taranto, Gibcus is
this
out.
is what I was saying before.
Baker.
It's probably
you've got a whole list. I'm like going...
It's the worst anyone's been hit in years, the Tigers.
We beat them by 110. Okay, I can actually see why now, because they probably had a full list of VFL players. It's nothing.
Put the 2s in the 1s, maybe switch it around,
nothing
see what happens.
We might actually show a bit more effort. That's the thing.
Might.
I get frustrated because it's the effort shown. It's like, I don't mind if you take risks and fail, but when you don't take risks, you're just bound to fail. And in AFL, that's the biggest thing. Look at the teams that take the game on, that take the risk. They go, you know what, we're going to play risk footy, and it's going to it might pay off, it might not, but most of the time, if we push, it's going to pay off. When you play risk-free footy, you try once and you go, oh no, we're not going to go that way again. And guess what? Teams dominate you, teams run over you.
Exactly right, and that's what Wellyalup did, even though they kicked 9 goals.
Forever, but I think we better move on from this game, otherwise it's going to be just as a... Euroic versus Wellyalup.
Well, Wellyalup did get the win, or Fremantle as they are usually called. They did kick 9 goals, 18, so they tried hard to make it at least look a little nice on the scoreboard for St Kilda or Euroic, who were 8-7-55. So 17-point win in that one to Wellyalup. The Dockers at Marvel Stadium, and you talk about taking risks. And when you don't, you get run over the top of, and you could not have said it better, because that is exactly what happened to my Hawks, who are up as far as 41 points over in Adelaide against not the Crows, the other team that I don't really like mentioning because they're on suspension right now for other reasons.
I don't think they're on suspension anymore. After
I gave them 3 weeks, so they need to serve it.
I think they're going for an early play. I mean... What did they... I'm just going now. They scored 11-14. They were back in the red in terms of the...
Well, they're still out for me because it was a game they should have won by 40 points plus, but they were down by 41 points for almost the whole game. They were down, actually, Woods, until the last 8 seconds when Darcy Burn-Jones' shin threw for goal. The strike from the edge of the box got through the keeper on the goal line and handed them the victory in the most narrow of circumstances I have actually ever seen. Outside of a goal out of after the siren, that actually does not get any tighter and closer than that. A general play goal in the last 8 seconds of the game, and they had not led once before that for the 1-point win. But, Woods, as I said before, I was gutted. And I was sitting there, I was back home in Inverloch with my brother and my old man, and we watched the whole game. A lot of screaming was going on, and when that Burn-Jones goal went through, and there was, by the time the ball got back to the middle, 4 or 3 seconds left on the clock, down 1, you can't win. Mum came in after the siren went, and the look on our faces, it was just, the bodies weren't moving, the faces weren't moving, didn't even look like breath was coming in and out.
I kind of gave it to you via the group message of...
And she came in and she said, "What happened? Did someone die?" And I just felt like saying, might as well have. That's what it feels like.
Yeah, well, as I said, you basically posted this in group chat and I ripped into you. I don't think any Richmond or Hawthorn supporters at the moment, whether you win a close one or not, it's irrelevant. You're up by 40, you lose by 1 point, or you lose by a goal close to the end of the zone. Big deal.
That's exactly right.
This is what it's about. This is what you have. This is what I do not have.
4 of them, yeah. So
Yeah, exactly.
after I got that perspective from you, and thank you for that, Yoda, I realised that it's a game of footy, and Mum kept repeating that, which really doesn't help. You feel like going, Mum, seriously, leave.
The biggest thing is, when it comes down to this, it's short-term pain versus long-term pain.
Exactly right.
And, like, for me, it's, okay, St Kilda shit now, but we're shit all the time. For Hawthorn supporter, Richmond supporters, even West Coast when they were down and out for a bit, North supporters, I can give them, like, last one was 99. Okay, they're valid. But if a Hawthorn supporter is, I sent you a video of a Hawthorn scarf in the toilet getting flushed out. I'm like,
Yeah, well, I haven't done that. Well,
Yeah.
I'm putting mine on.
good to
And
see.
it might be weird because a lot of people probably wouldn't put this on, put on and rep it and say that they've got pride after such a big choke job. And I wish I had a photo of Reggie Miller because that's what I would put up for Hawthorn because it was a massive choke job. But
But
you know, in the end, it was just a very nice tease from Sam Mitchell. There's no need to get excited.
You're not expected.
There's no need to win 10 games this
You're
year,
not-
Woods, because we're not
Exactly.
quite there yet. And he knows
Exactly.
that. He knows that they're going to tire at the end of the year. And so it's just smart coaching. Put the pressure on Port. It's a game that they had to win. It's not a game the Hawthorn have to win. You have to win
I'll
games.
give
We
you the
want
biggest
picks.
stat. I'll
We
give you
want
the
picks
best
right now.
stat. Best stat for you, right? 5 in 34. I'm 34 years old and I've seen 5 Hawthorn premierships.
Yeah, well, we don't need to win games.
I mean, I might not have seen 91. I was only 1 year old, but the point is,
Well, I've seen 4 and I'm 23, so that's not too bad of a strike rate.
5 in 23 is great. 4 in 23 is also great, but
But it's a great. It was a great
Was there any
3 quarters,
positives?
and I was very very happy. And I'm going to wear this because I'm proud. They just and I shouldn't be negative at all. As negative as I was watching live in the 4th quarter, saying that they're going to lose because they're playing this way. All I talk about on this podcast, and when I talk about footy, when I call footy, is AFL Aussie Rules footy in 2024. If you're any good and you want to be good, you've got to be able to change modes.
you got to
So
be
you-
able to
you
change
can't-
on a dime, as they say.
You can't go 100% 5th gear 100% of the time like Hawthorn do. So Sam was obviously just using it because at the moment they're just on a journey of learning. Like the whole team's young as. So he's obviously just deciding, all right, this is a great time to learn how to change mode into save and go slowly and protect. He just did it at a horrible time.
Yeah.
He did it 20 minutes out, which probably isn't great, but they learn, and that's the only thing they're really looking for right now because for me, you asked, is there any positives? 100% there is because I love the way we play. I love the way the team's made up. Absolutely love it. Every single player that played on the weekend, I absolutely love what they bring and how good they were. Cal Shadir, outstanding. New Jack Gunston. Even Marbior Chol, who I've been very critical of because he doesn't give anywhere near as much effort as everybody else, he was phenomenal. He was great. Loved it. Like the first goal he kicked, he was going at about 3 k's an hour running in to kick the goal, but he was just focusing, put it through. Loved his game. Midfield as always. Lloyd Meek, outstanding, most underrated ruck in the comp. And look, I love the game plan they use and the identity that like their one would, the way they want to play, the default Hawthorn footy plan to go and take risk and put high pressure on. It's a lot like what Sydney do. Hawthorn's just not nowhere near as good at it.
Yeah.
And if it takes that much brilliance,
But give them a few years and they'll be all right.
well, if it takes that much brilliance and that much heart and pressure to beat us now, I'm so excited for in the next couple of years because Hawthorn's meant to be bottom 4 right now, and it took Port absolutely everything to beat them. It took, St Kilda and the Bulldogs couldn't. So, yeah, if it takes that much brilliance, and speaking of brilliance, the coaches champ, the reigning coaches MVP or players MVP, I forget which one it was, pretty sure it was coaches, he's still there. And Sam Mitchell obviously didn't vote for him last year, and he obviously didn't do much scouting on this bloke, the Port Adelaide captain, because it was his conditions, and the way that Hawthorn played in the 4th quarter was just handing this bloke the win. It was like they went into the ocean to fight a shark, and they're an elephant. Like, it was just an absolute mauling. Like, the stats, I'm not a massive guy on stats. I'd rather just talk to you about how good someone is off the eye test. But this is the fourth quarter alone. 17 disposals, 7 contested, 5 clearances, 5 inside 50s, and just like off the chain sort of stuff. It was wet. Hawthorn kept defending to the one side. They just kick it out. Hawthorn had about 1 or 2 inside 50s for the whole quarter. They weren't interested in getting it down there. And this bloke was coming from 30 metres from each stoppage, sprinting through like an absolute madman. And there is not too many players I like watching more in the league. And this takes a lot for me to say, because I hated him live, because he was literally on his knee, pulling his team on his back from 20 points down or whatever it was going into the fourth. And he was the reason they won. Horn Francis set it up. He was the only one that really gave a lot in the first 3. Connor Nash was playing a lot on Butters in the first 3 quarters. Did a brilliant job. One of the best defensive midfielders in the comp. Way too underrated, Connor Nash. He moved to JHF in the fourth, and this guy said, all right then, it's wet. I love wet weather footy. My team's down. I love playing a superhuman performance and bringing us back, and that's exactly what he did. So he's my boy of the week, which you might think is a bit weird because he's the reason that my team lost to his.
It's good to see that.
But Zach Butters is my boy of the week, and it was not even close. A lot of the Hawks boys put on a good performance. I mean, Blake Hardwick with 5 goals.
Almost.
Remarkable stuff. But Zach Butters bringing his team on his back. An incredible captain's performance without Rosie. Wet weather, it was just set up for him.
Well, that's, I think, the good aspect of footy, but tell me about the bad.
Well, it's time for Bad Kicking is Bad Football. And, well, I'll talk about the bad first because it's a mixed segment this week, Woods. There's actually a little bit of good. But the bad, oh boy. Fremantle and the Western Bulldogs. You are probably the luckiest group of humans on the planet right now because you were this close to being suspended.
What was Freo's?
Freo's was, I think I mentioned it before,
while you're up?
8-11 or something like that. No, it was worse than that.
It'd have to be. I mean,
a 9-18 for Fremantle, so that's double the behinds to goals. Yeah. Disgusting. And mind you, theirs is a lot worse, regardless of how the Bulldogs is worse on the eyes. The numbers are worse for the Dogs. But while you're up, we're playing under the roof. What's your excuse? And the last 2 weeks, it's been the same. And we let them off. Obviously, it was a tough outing against Sydney, where they were, 1-11. But you put it together now, and, even sure kicks like Jai Amos, who, didn't miss for the first few rounds of the season when he was, he's playing brilliantly. And they're such an exciting team, dominating the game, and you can't be kicking 9-18 because, like I said, they're fighting for that 8th spot. They're fighting to put themselves back in the finals. You will lose games doing that. So they are on their last warning. They are inches, millimetres from being suspended in terms of, I'm not going to talk about them. They're definitely on the wall of shame. 9-18 is horrific. And the Dogs, 8-22's probably got to be a record. I think they hit the post 5 times. I was listening to that one on radio on my way home from work on Saturday night, and I am so glad I wasn't watching it because it was feral, the way that they were describing it. I was listening to it on Triple M, and yeah, I think they hit the post 5 times, 8-22, and they won the game.
Yeah.
Both of these teams won the game, and that's probably the reason I'm not putting them on suspension. They are going to go on the wall of shame because
we'll have a look at the wall of shame. You might see a new logo up there as well. Just,
mate,
as we go
how did these 2 teams win?
So for those that don't know, the team next to the Doggies, that is Wal Yillup's logo. They've adopted for the Indigenous rounds.
They kicked 8 goals, 22, and they beat Greater Western Sydney on their home deck. I might have to go back and I just could not quite believe.
But okay, you've gone through the bad. Talk through the good.
Oh, incredible stuff. On the other end of it, I've got a North Melbourne stat for you, and I mention them almost every segment. Every week we do this segment, I mention them because they always kick straight. And I absolutely love them. They're one of my favourite clubs in the league because of it. They kick straight again on the weekend. And we found this stat, which goalless quarters in 2024. Everyone. The only club that has kicked a goal in every single quarter of their season
a game.
is North Melbourne. That is remarkable stuff, and it's the first time it's happened. And a great photo of Zane Dursman as well.
First time in VFL AFL history that the only side left without a goalless quarter is the only team to have not won a game. That is a very impressive.
And I feel like I say it every week. They
well
kick
done, North
straight.
Melbourne.
They kick beautifully. They kick goals every quarter.
I was.
They just
happy,
don't kick enough. Woods.
I was kind of happy that they were competitive in the first half, but I'm kind of happy that in the second half, especially the third quarter, they kind of got run over. I had to move my car at Marvel, so I rocked up. It was a 1 o'clock game, I'm pretty sure it was, and I rocked up at say 2 o'clock or whatever time it was. I rocked up just after it started, about half an hour after it started. Rocked up in. Car park is bloody full. I had to park, I got directed where to park. It's just, park there. Park wherever you want, mate. Park next to that ute. So I did that. I'm like, okay, 10 minutes to go. I'm going to just move the car. Hopefully a few fans have left. It's going to be a one-sided game. I was glad. I was talking to Noah, and I'm there going, oh, bloody hell. North Melbourne and Essendon, if they keep this up, nobody's going to leave. I'm not going to be able to find a park until everybody rushes out.
Well, I guess all the North supporters left, but I doubt that was very many because of the amount of Essendon fans who were in the house for their home game. It's remarkable.
But
they are
on
they're
top.
alive.
It's great to see. When the team's on top, they show up. So that's good.
It's great to see. Seconded as well. But I could jump up and down and yell, but I've been a little bit crook, so I won't. So I just want to make something happen. And I want us to make a Hall of Fame because I want to put this team in it because I don't think this is going to happen many times.
Okay, so next week we'll get the Hall of Fame going.
The Gold Coast Suns.
Yep.
And if you watched last episode or the one before that and you watched our local footy segment, would have seen a few massive scores. And that's local footy, so that's nothing like this is. It's way easier, all that sort of stuff. And a lot of those scores had, you had the in one quarter, 26-5. And you're like, oh, that's incredible. Imagine that happening in the AFL. Well, it's happened. In Darwin, the Gold Coast Suns, or how I like to refer to them, the greatest team of all time. Gold Coast in Darwin, greatest team of all time. I don't think they've lost. Jack Lukosius is prime Gary Ablett Sr. He kicked 5 goals again in Darwin. 26-8, 164. 26 goals, 8. That is remarkable in 35-degree plus balmy Darwin weather. Amazing stuff. That is just amazing. That is Hall of Fame worthy. And if you don't mind, their opponent, the Cats, who lost by 64 points, still put up 15-10-100. So the goal umpires, I really feel for you. I hope you got the ice out for your arms because there would have been a lot of flag waving, a lot of finger pointing from them because that is an unbelievable amount of scoring. 25 shots for the Cats and over 30 shots for the Suns. Just like 264 points total. An absolute shootout. And by the end of it, it was just a little bit of a taking of the mickey because there was just no defense being played. Everyone was knackered. The coaches kicked 5. Bailey Humphrey kicked 5-1. Ben King kicked 4-1. Stengel 3 straight for the Cats. It was just everywhere. And it was just pinging round. So maybe that's the way footy is these days. But the Gold Coast Suns, congratulations. First team on the Hall of Fame. Hopefully they can keep that up against the Blues this weekend. It'll be very exciting. But the game of the round for me, Woods, there's 2 candidates here. To no surprise, the Hawks and Port Adelaide probably right up there just because of that thrilling finish, although it wasn't a very close game, wasn't the prettiest game for 3 quarters. And Collingwood and Adelaide at the G was won right at the death by 4 points by the Pies, as they always do, pulling away. But the way a few of those players stood up in the last quarter, especially 2 Indigenous players in Isaac Rankin and Bobby Hill, I think it's worth a shout. And if Rankin hadn't run so far without a bounce, maybe it would have gone differently. So both of them had their excitement late at the end. I'm not sure which one to pick.
Now, I just thought I'd give you a correction, just doing my research about Gold Coast and Marara Stadium, or Marara Oval as it is, in Darwin, I'm pretty sure. They've played 8 times, won 6, lost 2. The 2 that they lost was one in 2020 and one in 2012. They scored 27 against Carlton 60 and 34 against Western Bulldogs 72. So a little interesting fact, they've won 6 games, really good record, and
I think they're 5 on the trot as well.
Make it a fortress there. Well, make it a fortress there, and I mean the highest score at that ground was previously 147, and they've smashed that 164, and the highest combined total I would have to say would be 141 to 115, and I reckon they've smashed that as well, 164 to 100, and I feel sorry for Geelong because when you score 100, you usually win.
It's just unbelievable. They scored the 100 right at the end as well. The score, it was like an NBA game. It was just insane. And I don't mind the NBA at the moment, but I don't know. I can't answer the question whether that's what we want footy to get to or not, but it is interesting.
But yeah, you mentioned Carlton Sydney, and Sydney getting away with it and taking the title.
I reckon you just give him that thing right now. Give him that cup. Just
Yeah,
play
give him the
some
cup.
sort of football
Well,
that is just unlike football anybody else can play in the
it's going to
comp.
be defended on the road. Marvel Stadium, Thursday night, I believe.
Against the Bulldogs, it is.
Against the Bulldogs. I'm just trying to figure out, is there any?
It's going to be a pretty big one because
there
the
we
Dogs are relatively alive. And
Sorry, I just had a thing on my screen and I couldn't see the Friday night game. I was
as it stands, and it has been this way for about 3 or 4 weeks now since the Hawks almost ran them off the rails. It's the season's on the line for the Dogs once again, and it's going to continue to be on the line for probably 4 more weeks after this.
This week is a pass. Next, it's like Sydney, Collingwood, Brisbane.
You probably have Sydney retaining the belt.
yeah.
Just the way that they play with pace, the pressure they put on, the way that Hawthorn put pressure on the Bulldogs a few weeks ago, I don't think they can sustain the sort of pressure that the Swans put on. And like I said, they play football that no one else can really match. The Blues, they kicked the first 4 goals and they still lost by 50 points. So, and the Blues were, like we talked about last week, we could not talk up the game anymore. And how informed the Blues were, and they got put to the sword. Yes, it was in Sydney, but I think the main thing for them, the only question I have for the Swans being able to win the flag and make the grand final is whether they can sustain this sort of football for the whole year. Because no doubt, I think they'll have lapses and they'll have tired games because you can't play this football for 24 rounds plus 4 finals or 3 finals. That's impossible to do. So it's the question for me, but they have taken the belt for the first time, and I think they might keep it for a little while. But talking about them winning the flag, who can't win the flag, Woods?
Well,
I don't think mine's going to change too much. I don't think anyone's jumped off the
that's
page.
yours.
I don't think it's Well, we've got the Giants. The Giants lost, but I'm not concerned about them. Well, they're not. I think our great friend of the show, Jack Speechley, mentioned in our group chat on the weekend, the only team Nam has ever beaten, and that is Nam, referring to the Melbourne Footy Club in Sir Doug Nicholls rounds. They changed their name to Nam. Jack's mentioned, pretty sure the only team they've actually ever beaten is North Melbourne. So,
well, it might change this week. It might change this week.
Luckily, they don't go into the finals as Nam. So, as Melbourne, I think they'll be fine. I've got no worries about them. They've still got superstars everywhere. The Bombers, well, they're going really well. The Dockers, if they start kicking straight, they'll be fine. So I've got making no changes here, Woods. I'll tell you what, though, if Darcy Ben-Jones' shin through for the goals went through as a behind, I may have lifted that X on the Hawks. But it stays there, and I'll make no changes.
Okay, so that's yours and mine. I think there's only, if we go look at it now, you just saw a red X come off one team. That's the only difference we have. I still have Brisbane as a potential flag chance. I can't not do it because of their previous history, and they come good late season, so I'm holding off on them for now. They're basically just a wait-and-see team.
Well, we'll wait and see, we will.
But
and their matchup is a massive one. It's against a team, the only team in the competition that has not lost to Brisbane since 2020, and that is my Hawks. The only team in the comp that has not lost to Brisbane since 2020.
I believe.
But it is the first time they have ever played them.
before we look at the other games for the round,
At Marvel.
these are all the jumpers we spoke about last week. It got posted about half an hour after we finished the podcast.
Yeah,
And I'm
thanks
like,
for that, AFL.
The second one. The first one was already up there. So these are all the jumpers, Guernseys as I like to call them, that will be used once again. And
I
was
might come
used
out and
last round.
say it here, Woods.
What's your favourite?
It's top 3 years we've ever had.
Well, I reckon next week.
And it ain't 3.
Yeah, I reckon next week we're gonna have to look at
Just for the fact that for the last probably 5 years,
all of them. I think we
a
just
lot
have
of
to have
teams
a
have
look at all of
ran
them.
with the same thing.
Yeah.
So like Sydney and another great friend of the show, Noel Fisher, was starting to annoy him. They were rolling with they've rolled with the same jersey for the last 4 years. They've finally changed it.
Release one every year because then it becomes special to that year.
Exclusive as well, and the fact that it's a 2-round initiative
And
these days, so
teams have-
a lot of teams have different jerseys. Obviously, the Saints have a white version. The Dogs played in their white version on the weekend.
Gold Coast had a Darwin version,
Darwin version.
and an Indigenous version, apparently.
That's right. Walyalup or Freo have a purple version, which they'll wear this week, I'm sure. Melbourne or Nam have a bit of a brighter blue, which they brought in last year, I think. The Hawks have a brown version of that. It's basically just the inverse, which I really like. And obviously Brisbane have the white version of theirs. So,
But go through the games now. Run through them quickly.
So while the beautiful jumpers are up there, we've got the Dogs and the Swans, the heavyweight bout, as we mentioned. That'll be 7:30 under the lid on Thursday night or tonight as you are watching. Walyalup host the Pies, which is probably, for me, standout game of the round so far as I'm looking at them. Can the Dockers break through, kick straight, and take a scalp at home? Optus will be pumping for that one. That's an 8:10 start on your Friday because it's over in the West. North Melbourne host Yardapulti, still looking for their first win. And if they keep kicking goals in every quarter, you never know. It could happen. The Hawks almost did it on the weekend. That is also not under the lid. That is in Tassie. So it might be a little bit chilly for the Power. We'll never know about that. But that's 1:45 on your Saturday. Also at 1:45. 2 games at 1:45 on a Saturday. Woods, I hate that. I'm not going to go into it, though, because we're a bit time poor today. The Blues host the Suns at Marvel Stadium. And this, for me, is the biggest test for the Suns all year. Not just because it's Carlton, who will be hungry after a loss, because it's an away game. A genuine away game. Can they win one? They have not won one yet. The Cats then host the Giants at possibly the worst scheduling ever, 4:30 on a Saturday afternoon, and it is at the Cattery. I cannot wait for this. Both teams have lost multiple games in a row now. Crucial that each win for their top 4 chances. And then, obviously, one of the best games of the year, no matter how good each team is. It's dream time at the G. It's the Tigers hosting the Bombers, or Secondon. Can't wait for that one. It is awesome. The long walk to the G, just beautiful. One of the best games on the calendar. I mentioned under the lid for the very first time. I could not believe that. The Lions and the Hawks have never played each other at Marvel Stadium. Incredible. That'll be at 1:10 on your Sunday. Nam host Euro Roke or Melbourne and St Kilda on the prime time slot.
Their second win
on Sunday. Very big game there, Saints and Demons. And then Kuruana or the Adelaide Crows host the Eagles or Welwich Murrawah at the Adelaide Oval. Can hardly bring them to another upset. That is going to be a massive one as well. But for this week, that's all we've got time for the AFL. Make sure you take in round 11 and let us know. And tell us which one's your favourite Indigenous jersey as well. But now, I thought, Woods, it's about time we talked a little bit of basketball. And I'm not talking about NBL or NBA. I'm talking about our national team. And I'll start with the Boomers, because a couple of episodes ago, we talked about their squad and who's in it. But they've just revised it down to 17. Obviously, Brian Gorgon is the coach. We're looking for another medal. I think that's the pass mark for us. At least make those medal finals. That's where we want to be. So the squad is CG43, Chris Golding, Joey Ingles going round again, Nick Kay, who had to play big at the last World Cup because we just didn't have many others. Dante Exum, who has had an incredible season for the Dallas Mavs. Paddy Mills, of course, he's just been posting videos. He's right into his workouts. He's passionate. He's ready to go off his NBA season. DJ Vasiljevic, who is a straight shooter. Duop Reith, he's had a massive season in the NBA as well. Josh Giddey, who's fresh from being eliminated from the NBA playoffs, and he actually got his minutes cut as well. So he'll be very pumped to get on the green and gold. Will Magnay, Dyson Daniels, Josh Green, Jack McVeigh, Xavier Cooks, Jack White, Matisse Thibel, Jock Landale and Matty Dellavedova. And I think, like I said before, Woods, there's enough quality, international quality, on this roster that we can contend for one of those medals. And I think that's what we'll be wanting to do. In saying that, the other teams around the world, especially the European teams, have been giving everybody grief, not just the US, for the last few years. They are so strong. Particularly France will be pretty good with the big band. And Canada, who I've found really exciting at the last World Cup. And then obviously the US are always very strong. But we've got this Opal squad as well, which it was a bit different. The only thing I really find was the last squad, which was actually released in March, but they've got a few seeding games and, well, not seeding games, but just games to warm up and see what they want to go with. It was interesting. I was listening to Andy and Gazy on the drive home on Friday last week, and they had the GOAT, Lauren Jackson, on. And they kept pushing and saying, you're playing in the Olympics. You're playing, right? You're playing. And she said, well, this 43-year-old body gets pretty sore, guys, but she's currently putting up over 35 points a game in the NBL 1. So she's not out of form, Woods. It's just whether she can make it. She said if she's picked and they give her a chance and her body's all right, she'll be there, which would be just remarkable. So this is your Opal squad.
I look forward to seeing who makes it out of that.
Yeah, and like the Boomers, so much talent here. And we really should be pushing and wanting to make a run there because Aussie basketball is in an amazing spot right now. And I'm so excited. And before they head off, there's actually a few games in Oz that you could head to. It's at the John Cain Arena. I think we're playing China, the Opals, and Korea maybe? I can't remember who the teams are, but I think I had a photo of it. I'm not sure. But yeah, there's a couple of games at John Cain Arena in the start of June, so a couple of weeks' time before they obviously head off for a few more, I think, in Dubai. So acclimatising themselves before obviously they head to Paris in August and try and go for gold. So best of luck to those teams. The whole nation's behind them as usual. One of my favourite Olympic events is the basketball, but I'm obviously a massive basketball fan, so I might be a little bit biased there. A few other athletes as well, talking about Olympics. I think the para-athletic champs are pretty close or around the corner. And obviously 100 days, I think, till the Paralympics as well. So very keen to see how our Aussie Paralympians go in the athletics. But speaking of Australians strutting their stuff outside the shores of our beautiful country, it's time for Aussies around the grounds. And obviously we always kick off with my weekly wonder, which is where we claim him. He's mostly Kiwi, but Scotty McLaughlin will start on pole for Indy 500. And right behind him is Will Power, an Aussie. So front row for the Indy 500, which is an incredibly famous race in the States, will be two Aussies. Well, we claim Scotty, obviously, as an Aussie. Might be part or mostly Kiwi, but either way, he was a legend of
Aussies have a
Aussie racing
of doing that.
So very massive congratulations to those boys. That's very, very exciting. The next thing, Woods, which came across my socials during the week, and I don't have much to talk about in the NFL in terms of Aussies, it's actually back on our shores, and there actually has been talks for an NFL game at the MCG. And we're not talking a practice match here.
I'm right there.
We're not talking an exhibition match here either.
Who's playing.
We're talking 4 points for everything.
I don't care who's
for the rest
playing.
of our lives. For the chip, for the Super Bowl. No, I'm kidding. But they are looking at playing.
Bring Denver there.
They're looking at playing a game for points at the G. And I don't care how much money I have. I will rob a bank. I will be front row. I'll be watching.
I might not be front row, but I'll probably be level 2 in the members.
I don't care. I don't care if they bring the Panthers and the Bears. I'll be there.
Broncos and I think it would be Rams or...
Yeah, and obviously you see in this picture Philadelphia and LA. That is because both of those clubs have associations with Australia. The Rams are obviously well affiliated, and then the Eagles as well. And it would be great to see the Eagles, obviously, with Geordie Mailata, who has just launched his academy on the Gold Coast and does it beautifully, is an Aussie himself. So that'd be awesome. But it is in talks. It was all over the news the other night, and I didn't really read any of it because I just want something to come out that's definite, and I want to get my excitement and save and not spend a single dollar until the tickets come out, because I would be beyond crazed to be at this game. And putting aside how bloody far it would be for the players, They'd probably have to have 2 buys after it if they want to go over the other side of the world. But we would have them anytime. The G would be packed because the NFL is massive in Oz as well. And it's about time they came down to the punting factory that is Melbourne. So that's very exciting. The other big league in America is obviously the NBA, and we're down to 2 Aussies as Josh Green and Dante Exum's Dallas Mavericks defeated Josh Giddey's OKC Thunder in Game 6 of that series. So the Mavs move on to the Western Conference Finals, and Green and Exum will be looking to book their trip to the NBA Finals and look to get their rings. I'm pumped for that one. They're playing the Minnesota Timberwolves, which is going to be a huge series as well. The Timberwolves just defeated and sent home the reigning champs, the Nuggets, and the 3-time MVP, Nikola Jokic. So massive series for the boys there. Another quick one, speaking of the G, Ange Postecoglou and his Spurs are in town. We recorded this on the Wednesday, so they are playing tonight against Newcastle, I'm pretty sure.
Yeah,
not certain.
United. I won't be going, unfortunately.
I thought about going. I'm not sure if I'm going either. I might have missed out on tickets, but it was great to have Ange back. Obviously, they got him to the G. They welcomed him home with a big graphic there on the big screen, and one of the nation's favourites. So hopefully Spurs can put on a little show for his hometown fans tonight. Obviously, they finished in the top 5 in the Premier League, and City won it again, which we won't gloss over too much because it's happened for the last couple of years now.
Move on. Two minutes, though. 2 minutes it took to get their first goal and dampen the spirits of everyone else. I was watching it, and I watched it till the end, and
it's a pretty great achievement, but you know.
Just before halftime, West Ham scored, so the scores were 2-1 at halftime. Arsenal had hope, and all West Ham needed to do was score again, but broke our hearts. City did once again.
Just a over-dominant machine is Manchester City. Another dominant machine is that car that Max Verstappen drives. He also not only won the F1 Grand Prix in Imola, in Italy, one of 2 Italian Grand Prix, but he also spent the weekend driving for his Team Redline in sim racing. And it was a 24-hour Nürburgring race. He's in a team, so it wasn't all him, but his team won that, and then he went on and won the Grand Prix. And boy, I was on the edge of my seat. This is like, we're talking 1 a.m. Sunday night. The Hawks had been done by a shin through the goals in the last 8 seconds. Max led the whole race, and then Lando Norris from McLaren, who won the last race in Miami, only the second person to beat Max in the last couple of years outside of his teammate, just came and found this unbelievable pace when Max had no battery, and it was a genuine race to the finish. I was on the edge of my seat, and I thought it was going to happen twice in one day. I thought 2 of my favourites were going to be robbed right in front of me, as the Crows man says, but it didn't happen. Max, it was a hard-fought weekend. He was slow in practice. He was slow, really, at the start of qualifying, but he pulled out from sheer brilliance and a talent that, for me, has him in the GOAT conversation already. Pulled out a pole position that was quicker than everybody else, and in a car that was giving him not much. He wasn't comfortable in it. It broke down towards the end of the race. Bloke was knackered. He won 2 races in the one weekend, and he was racing that online, that sim race in his motorhome, and the bloke was like right up against the wall. He had no room. He loves it. He has a motor racing. He's a motor racing juggernaut. He's building a whole empire. But as far as the Aussies went, Daniel Ricciardo finally made Q3, started in the top 10, just didn't have the pace on race day, had pitted early, couldn't quite make that strategy work, finished just outside the top 10. So, again, his points drought continues in terms of the long races. He did score in the sprint race in Miami, of course. And then Oscar Piastri in the McLaren, which has come out of nowhere and really is the second fastest car at the moment to the Red Bull, and really look like they can beat them at the moment. Probably was robbed of a podium because he impeded Kevin Magnussen in the first qualifying session. He got a 3-place grid penalty, so he started on the second row, maybe even further back. He was quick, but with Lando Norris, his teammate, starting ahead of him, getting the better strategy and finding really the more pace and being the favoured driver, Norris took the podium. He finished second, and Charles Leclerc finished third in front of all the huge Ferrari Italian Tifosi fans. It was great to see, but I think Oscar should be excited because going into Monaco this week, the McLaren is one of the fastest cars, and if he qualifies well, he can get back on the podium and who knows, might get his first win. So I'm very excited for that. Hopefully Daniel Ricciardo can qualify into the third session as well. Again, start in the top 10 and get some points. We all know what he can do around the streets of Monaco. That is this Sunday. I can't wait for that as well. Always a very historic race. But that's the F1 wrap. And finally, just something that caught my eye. This is 6PR radio in Perth. And it caught my eye not because of, obviously, they've got some really good callers there, but they're calling the Euro and Royal Up game, or the Dockers Saints game, from the casino. So there's just people obviously watching. There's big screens to the right there of the screen. But the video sort of panned around, and there's just people obviously throwing their life savings on black, some people playing a bit of poker, and then there's just the lads calling the game off the big screen in the middle of the casino. So not something you see every day, but I just thought that was interesting. And we'll finish off with a bit of local footy. There's not too much this week. We couldn't find some massive score lines, but something that is pretty massive, a local of the West Gippsland comp where I reside and call, Nathan Gardner. He kicked 100 goals in the comp last year, and on the weekend he bagged 12, if you don't mind, and along the way kicked his 700th career goal, I think over 300 of those with the Cobras. So congratulations to Nath, one of the competition's best. I absolutely love watching him. Beautiful bloke as well. His old man takes some brilliant photos as well, so congratulations to Nathan Gardner on 700 goals. But this week, Woods, just a couple of big notes. It's the grand final rematch. Inverloch Colmac head over to the Kennel to face Phillip Island, and as it stands, they're both in the top 6 once again. Inverloch Colmac is undefeated. Phillip Island with just a 1 blemish against Narnagoon and a draw, but it should be massive. Grand final rematch in the senior grade, grand final rematch in the under-18s, and a top 6 clash in the reserves and the under-16s, where Phillip Island is undefeated and Inverloch Colmac is undefeated in the under-16s, and the reserves is a massive game as well, both teams in the finals race. So every single game of football at the Kennel on Saturday is going to be an absolute ripper. We're calling the game on SEN Gippsland, so make sure you tune in on 91.3 FM or on the SEN app from 1 o'clock. We've got the Saturdays in Gippsland show, and then obviously the match from 2:10. Can't wait for that. And then on the other end of the tape, a game we almost went to. It's the winless clash between Corumburra Banner and Bunyip. But two teams, the only two teams in the comp that have not won a game, and barring a draw, one will emerge with their first points of the season. That is in Corumburra on Saturday.
Well, if they get a draw, they still will get points.
Well, that's true. But they want to win, obviously. First team to win that one gets their first win of the year. And then also Narnagoon and Coralin, a rematch of, I think, last year's semi or the year before. They always play each other in the finals. Two very high-powered offences, and I'm very keen for that one. So that's a bit of a West Gippy preview for you. I can't wait for that. Make sure you take in, obviously, the NBA playoffs still happening, the Monaco Grand Prix, and obviously round 11 of the AFL. And until then, like and subscribe, and we'll be back with you next week. Thanks for listening and watching.